Welcome back to Roadmap, Autotrader UK's product and tech podcast. Today's episode is doubling down on the important topic of social mobility and the work that the Social Mobility Network here at Autotrader have been doing on this front. To chat to us today, I've got three brilliant guests, all part of the network. First up, I've got Brad Mills, who's a performance manager and one of the facilitators. Hey, Brad.
Hello.
And next, I've got Claire Beatty, who has got an absolutely mammoth title that includes Company Secretary, Director of Governance and Compliance, and I think maybe risk in there, Network OLT sponsor, and lots of other ones. Hey, Claire.
Morning, Pete.
I said I'd cut that down. But, and last but not least, we've got Dave Webb. Dave's a data analyst, and he is another of our facilitators. Hey, Dave.
Hey, morning.
Cool. So, social mobility, big topic. Lots of government policy, think tanks, lots of words like intergenerational mobility, intragenerational mobility. But actually, rather than us going into the whole grand scheme of things, it's really what does social mobility mean on a day-to-day perspective at Autotrader and as a network, really what that means. I'm going to start with you, Brad.
Yeah.
Your perspectives.
Yeah, I think in terms of social mobility and what the network does, I think it really brings together a community along with sponsors like yourself, Claire, facilitators within the business. They're passionate about creating that equal opportunity for everyone.
Yeah.
For me, I think regardless of background, it's about breaking invisible barriers. It's a term we use quite a bit, but actually what does that mean? And it's allowing people to reach that full potential because regardless of background, actually, we see in the UK some of the poorest rates of social mobility in the developed world, really. I mean, the people born into those lower income families actually don't get the same opportunities to those that are born into, the wealthy circumstances. So facilitator group's all about coordinating work in that space and actually striving for a better awareness, making sure we can recruit, promote, develop, and more importantly, retain some of the most talented people, I guess, in the country.
I mean, we could just sell a podcast there, to be honest. That's
perfect.
Super comprehensive. That's all right. No, and Claire, like from your perspective, it's probably slightly different as the OLT sponsor. But again, what's your sort of day-to-day view on social mobility?
Yeah, so we've only just launched the network recently, but we have had a big focus on this for quite a long time now through things like our outreach programs, STEM ambassador programs, where we go to schools in maybe deprived areas who haven't had the opportunities to even know about tech careers, haven't had the same educational opportunities, the same role models, the same parenting as potentially other people. Our apprentice and other kind of early careers programs. So those have been running for quite a number of years and we're probably quite ahead of a lot of other businesses in that respect. But it was really all being driven by the people team and really wanted to get the rest of the business and those that are passionate about it involved as well. So we launched the network quite recently. So I sponsor it. Pete, you also sponsor it. You kept that quiet.
I know. I was gonna like to launch that one later, so I don't have to answer any questions myself. But yeah,
two really passionate network leads, Sarah and Sarah, and then lots of facilitators who really care about it. So we're doing lots of activities to, I guess, educate people about what it is, advocate, tell stories, and then continuing with the great work we're doing around, recruitment, retention, development.
Yeah, and Dave, you're quite a recent hire, and I think you came near enough straight into the network. So again, what is your perspective, like your view on it all?
I think the big one for me and the big opportunity for AT is as a tech firm itself. It's traditionally an area that has quite low entry barriers compared to other professional fields. Autotrader is specifically more focused on sort of experience rather than education, things like that. They really help with social mobility and helping kind of bring people in. I think once you're in Autotrader, there's loads of like great things that we're already set up to help people from any background like progress their careers. We've got like the squiggly careers like emphasis, so happy to move around different areas of the business, and like things like the diverse talent accelerator as well.
Yeah,
really good for helping people from any sort of background sort of progress through the stages in the company.
Yeah. I mean, we've done an episode on the DT in the last few weeks, which is on the podcast. So definitely one to look into. But just going into a little bit more, and I apologise in advance around, it's probably going to be a bit more of a personal question, but why this network? Why did you choose to be part of this network from your own personal perspective? I'm going to start with you, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a personal story time for people going in. So myself, I'm from a working class family from Tameside, East Manchester. I think it's one of the recognised cold spots for social mobility within the area. But I've got a bit of a weird background. So despite that, when I was 11, I got a scholarship to go to private grammar school. So I've kind of seen both sides of the coin, really, from where it is. The bit that really stood out for me, kind of, went through grammar school, got my university degree, and you get to the end and you think, oh, I've done it. I've done all the hard work. I've got the degree and everything. And I found when I finished, I was like, I had no clue how to just even apply for a professional job. Like, you go talk to your family and they're still like, oh, you just take your CV and hand it in, right, and see if there's any jobs going. It's like, yeah, I don't think it quite works like that. And it took me a while to get on the job ladder despite all of that in my background. So I think for me, part of this network's trying to open up sort of like those routes into businesses like this from people from similar backgrounds to myself, where you may just not even have a clue of how to apply for these jobs. So, just bring a bit of education out and have some contact points for people from those areas to reach out and get into businesses like ours.
Yeah, super interesting. What about yourself, Brad?
Similar lines to Dave, really. Grew up in a small town called Fleetwood, just outside
No
of
Fleetwood.
Blackpool.
No Fleetwood well.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, Fleetwood Docks, a lot of family grown up working on the docks in the fishing industry. Very much my mum a cook, my dad's a joiner, so really sort of working class backgrounds. I think growing up along them lines, didn't really have support network that would recognise, say, the skills that I recognise myself today and the reasons why I'm in this job. But I think growing up, I did always, well, now I see the reasons why I'm in this job in sort of sales and customer partnerships, and see the skills that align to it. I went to a big old state school in Fleetwood called Carnal Allen. It were that big that your year group got split down the middle and in half. So you didn't know half of your school year, which was a little bit insane. It was in year 10, so second to last year, they bring you together. So I was always a bit of a joker at school, albeit well behaved, but a bit of a joker in class. So to pull me up as to speak, year 10, the school comes together, and they sat me next to a girl called Kirsten. So Kirsten went on to achieve sort of A's, A stars at GCSE. Star pupil. Kirsten today is my girlfriend of 13 years.
Oh, nice. I didn't know where they sit. I thought you were going to say it works in Auto Trader.
Yeah, now working on it. No, not quite. So it was sitting next to Kirsten, actually, that I pinpoint, actually, in 2010. That was the moment, actually, where I started to recognise potential in myself. And the reason in that is that I started to compete with her on everything at school. Every school subject from there. So that was in maths. Everything else was like, I'm going to do you at this now. So so that was what gave me it kind of opened the door, and I kind of, part of the network, recognised not everyone's going to have that sort of idol or pinpoint moment, as to speak. I kind of followed the crowd, because everyone's going to sixth form next, are they? Right, okay, I'll go to sixth form then. Oh, everyone's applying to university. All right, I'll apply to university. Then it kind of, my path went a little bit backwards in that I was sort of like B's and C's at high school, went and then got the odd A at sixth form, and then went and got a first degree from like a UK top 10 uni. But it was every step of the way actually believing in your potential.
Yeah.
And I think because I didn't have maybe that bed of knowledge or influence when I was younger necessarily to propel me, and it all comes down to that sort of landscape and background again. I think that's where, as part of the network, if we can open those doors for anyone, just to give them that little bit of opportunity, even just belief in themselves that they've got the potential to go on and do great things, then if we can do that just for one person, I go home of an evening quite happy.
That sounds super good. What about yourself, Claire?
It's a similar. I grew up in a working class household. I think my parents, my dad was a baker, my mum worked in an office, and they were really supportive with schoolwork, but they didn't really give me that kind of sense of ambition that I could do any more than, I think they thought, well, we've done all right. What's wrong with this? So just stay, this is fine. So the school I went to was a failing school, so it's always been in like special measures. I think there were probably about 8 of us that went on to do A levels out of the 240 kids in the year. So it was really, wasn't, everyone else went off to have babies or go and get an apprenticeship, or YTS as they were called then. So I went on to do A levels, but then just didn't even think about going to university. It just wasn't in my radar, because my parents had not been, and they were kind of like, well, you've done your A levels, go and get yourself a job now, come on, it's time to start earning some money. And I'm one of 4 kids, and none of us have been to uni. So I just started work. I was good at maths, so suggestion, well, I'd be an accountant then. That's the only thing that people are good at maths can do. So I wrote with my CV to many accounting firms, and managed to get a job in a very small firm in Stockport. And similar to you, I met my husband. He'd been through a typical, been to university, did his accountancy qualification. I met him at work, and he was saying, well, why didn't you go to uni? Why not? Why would you not? And he wasn't from a particularly wealthy background either, but his parents were just very different. They were very ambitious and just wanted him to do the best he could and have a better life than they did, if you like. So he kind of pushed me a bit, and together we moved down to London. Got various jobs in London, did a few more, did some professional qualifications, did a master's degree, and ended up kind of where I am now. So, but yeah, I think it was, for me, it wasn't that my parents they just didn't push me. They just thought, you're kind of okay. This is as good as it gets, and you don't really need to leave the area, and you can just stay locally and get a job in an office, doing some books, and that's fine. There just wasn't an ambition there. So yeah, and the career guidance at school it's rubbish, isn't it? Let's face it. They just don't know what jobs exist, do they? Certainly in the school I went to.
Yeah.
It's like maths teacher or accountant. That's it. That's the 2 jobs you can do with maths.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I mean, like, I'm my sort of view again, as you brought it. I'm one of the sponsors. It's probably different. I think sort of benefit probably. I'm the child of your backgrounds in terms of my dad. My dad, similar to you, single parent, didn't really push him in any way. I mean, my grandma had her own things to deal with. Was a dinner lady, and my dad, similar to Dave, got picked out and actually sponsored to go to grammar school, and then he was the first in his family to go to uni, etc. And then I, reaped the benefits of him getting out of where he was and sort of starting again. And I think it's similar to yourselves when I got asked like which network. There's some networks are looking for sponsors. Are you interested? It was that whole like pay it forward. Like I've benefited from it, and like you said, Brad, if you can just help 1, 2, even if it's just showing that there is a door in the corner. I know you can't see it right now, but there is a door, and if you do try and go through it, sometimes it won't open, but if you keep trying it will open in the end. It's that kind of just that whole pay it forward. So it is one that like it is a little. It touches inside because it's real and something you can feel and touch. So even though it is an embryonic network, it feels like it could be a really special network if we get it right. And it is, like we are in the early phases. But despite being in the early phases, this is something that I want to talk about a little bit more. Is so we have been externally recognised as a company through the Social Mobility Employer Index this year. And we're in the top 75, but we've been in there for a number of years now. And it's something I'm interested again from your perspectives in the network is the importance of that external recognition and whether actually us putting ourselves as a company out there to talk about social mobility and to show what we're doing, whether that has been a good thing, a bad thing, a catalyst for change, and just again what your personal views are on it. And again, I'm just going to stay with you, Claire, because I've got you right in me line of fire. So yeah, because again, you've been around the sort of the guilds probably longer than us 3 have been.
Yeah, I mean, it's great recognition. And every year it gets harder to get on that list because every year more and more employers enter. So even though we've stayed middling, I guess, in that top 75, it's getting tougher every year because it's. I mean, as you said in the intro, it's a big area for government policy. There's lots of talk of levelling up, and it's just a big area of focus for lots of employers at the moment. So it's really been an achievement to get on the list, and it's really is a reflection of the work that we've been doing as a business around, as I mentioned earlier, for the outreach programs, but also the early careers. So we offer apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships that just give people that ability to be able to do a career or enter into a career where the barriers may have been just too high. So we do lots of tech apprenticeships. We do, typical ones around the business. We've also this year for the first time done a legal apprenticeship. So we've got an apprentice in my team who's training to become a solicitor, and that's, you know, without having to go to university, without having to go to law school. That's a career that, you know, traditionally is really hard to get into.
Yeah.
So I think the really hard work we've done around apprenticeships and early careers, and just breaking those myths that, you know, you need to have a certain qualification from a certain institution to be able to get this job. Actually, no, it's about talent and potential and ability. So I think it's just a reflection of all the great stuff we've been doing. But there's more to do. I think there's areas, you know, we'd like to be in the top 10. We always want to, you know, well, we'd like to be number 1, obviously, because that's Auto Trader's, you know, normal way of doing things. But we're up against lots of really large organisations that have got thousands and thousands of employees with maybe teams of, you know, full-time people whose job full-time is to focus on this area. So just to get on the list is a great achievement.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things I was surprised of, because, again, when we joined the network, myself and Claire, we spoke to other companies in the Northwest, like the likes of Deloitte, KPMG, those kind of people. And when you're chatting to them, they're saying, oh, so what's your role? And you're explaining, like, yes, the role of sponsor is, but it's part of our overall role, what we do. And they were like amazed, because they, like you said, have got full departments that is what they do. So it is great when you see that some of them are right up at the top, but where we see in the top 75, it is impressive. But thinking, again, there was a lot of data produced, Dave, wasn't there, from the it? Is there any, like, of the data points you've been looking at? Because one of your, obviously, leveraging your skills in the network is to deep dive on some of the data. Was there anything particularly interesting that you've taken out of being in that top 75 and the data reflected back?
Yeah, I think one of the nice things about kind of being involved is it gives you a chance to, like, audit yourself on someone else's benchmark as it comes in. So we get scored in, like, different areas as we come through. And some of the really good areas are the ones that Claire's already mentioned. So we're very good at sort of outreach, and we've got roots into the company, so apprenticeships, things like that, as they come in. And we're good at attracting people from different areas, so we don't just, like, attack the top 10 Russell Group or anything like that. We try and recruit from lots of different areas in the country, in different education levels, and progression through the business. It was very good. We scored quite highly on that.
Yeah.
Some of the interesting data points we have, probably where we do fall down in that chain is sort of the recruitment area. So we do very well on attracting people in from different areas. Then we fall down a little bit on recruitment, but once people are in, they're very good in the progression. So it's nice to have, like, sort of just the external benchmark to say this is one of the places you need to sort of have your focus. A couple of the other areas highlighted as well is advocacy was one. So obviously we've done this podcast just for advocacy around the company, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
and then data collection internally was another big thing as well. So internally within the company, we very good at being a data-driven organisation as we go in, and it kind of reflects even in our networks. So lots of other networks we have, we have disability and neurodivergence, we have our LGBTQ plus network, etc. We collect a lot of data from them to make sure we're doing the best we can as an employer. One thing we've noticed for social mobility is the engagement's way down compared to some of the other networks in the company. So it's nice to highlight that sort of area of where we can improve and what we want to do for that, and just get the message out that this is important.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if people could fill in sort of the questionnaires we send out, allow us to improve ourselves as an organisation and help people through, from different backgrounds.
Yeah, I can remember when we first launched the sort of the social mobility questions, and I was a bit like, oh, this is new. Why are we asking? And
why are you asking about preschool meals?
Yeah,
25 years ago.
It feels even longer for me now, like 35 years ago. Well, then there's the ones like, what was your parents' sort of educational level? And I remember when it came out at the time, which is a number of years ago now, I was a bit like, oh, this is interesting. I don't mind filling it in, but I can also see where there's a bit like, oh, I'm not sure I do want to fill that in. So yeah, totally, like you say, advocacy, doing things like this, just talking about it more openly. We have got other things we'll talk about in a bit around other things we're doing. But again, Brad, I know you've been pretty active on LinkedIn about the where we stand in the top 75. Super proud. But again, what does that in you as the individual, as a network facilitator, and just with the things you talked about, what does it mean to you, this recognition and also like critique of where we could do better?
I think it's where, Claire, you mentioned that although we're a fairly new network, it's been part of the strategy for quite some time, and my view of that, Pete, and why I'm sort of so passionate about it is I did come through an early careers scheme myself.
Yeah.
So 2020 joined as a graduate account manager. I remember even just coming down the M602 on that day, looking at all the skyscrapers, thinking, will I ever be able to afford or experience living in the city?
Yeah. Were you still living in Fleetwood at that point?
Still in Fleetwood, yeah. Never left. So it was very like intruder moment, you know.
Yeah.
And then come on the assessment day and you get to the office and you're just thinking like, you're looking at everyone in there going, these must be some special people, you know. You just feel so out of place, and how do you get to this type thing?
Yeah.
So I think that's where I am proud of sort of the work that Auto Trader do, because actually without that work and the continuous work we're doing in that area, I wouldn't be sat here today without that entry level, because like you say, barriers sometimes can be a little bit too high to get in at that point. I don't think in terms of critique, I think we're doing brilliant work already in terms of how early we are and in our infancy of the network. So I'm only really excited for what we're going for.
Yeah, so I'm not sure when we're going to publish this podcast, because obviously we shuffle around the releases, but it feels right now there is, like you said, there is a lot going on. Like we've really been pushing the agenda since the inception of the network, but it isn't for external recognition, and that's great. It's nice to have. It is good that we're getting critiqued and giving us a bit of guidance, but there's lots going on at the moment, and November 2023 is the sort of AT social mobility takeover month. But is the things that are happening right now, like right now in real time? If this is released in December, it would have been like last month. So are the things that are happening as a network that you're really like either excited about, or that's the thing I'm going to double down on? Because there's one specific ones for me, but I'm not going to reveal my ones, what I want initially. But yourself, Brad, what's going on right now that you're like, yeah, that's brilliant?
I think I will kick off with the wow wall that we're doing. I've opened my laptop because to define what a wow is. A wow moment is when you felt the belief from someone, an inspiration or support that you've helped with your career development, career choices. That might be a teacher, believed in potential, manager, coach, mentor, essentially a role model that inspired you. So very much I've picked that one, very much in line with where I mentioned Kirsten earlier.
Yeah.
Because without that moment, that's actually that inspiration that, again, without that milestone in my life, would I be sat here speaking to you now? Probably not. It's only, I think every single decision that happens in life does direct to where you end up.
Yeah, no, I do love the wow wall.
So the wow wall for me is a great opportunity to celebrate those people that have inspired and directed us in life and got us to where we are.
Cool. What about yourself, Claire, in this busy old month?
So I'm very excited about the panel session that we're going to be doing.
I'm a little bit nervous about
Are you hosting that one as well, Phoebe?
Yeah.
It'll be fun. So this myself and another two members of the OLT, Alison and Darren, are going to come along, talk about class. So we're going to talk about social mobility, share our stories, why it's important to us.
Yeah, I think that'll be
as a business.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. I think there's a lot probably still isn't there that people think senior leaders they've been to Cambridge or whatever, Redbrick University, and actually hearing the real life stories of where people have come from, how they've got there, and what background they're from is really interesting. But also like the interaction with other classes that have different routes, and how you as an OLT have got a very diverse backgrounds in all the individuals. So I'm fascinated, but I am breaking it a little
spoilers,
bit.
But I do know that I think when Sarah Brooks Pierce came to first talk to the OLT about social mobility, when we were kind of talking about should we launch a network, she assumed that we were all from some as you say Cambridge educated background. She's quite flattering given that it's dragged up, but there you go. But and even when she left the room, I kind of said, oh, I'm really passionate about this, and someone said to me, why would you be, and I said, well, I didn't go to uni. Really? So I think there's just this assumption that and we are from just such a wide range of backgrounds, and in all that I've worked in several kind of listed businesses, and typically the people on the board are all very upper class and have worked in lots of different board companies and gone through that traditional route. We're not like that here at all. We do everything differently here, don't we?
Yeah, I think that it will be fascinating. I don't know why. I think I'm more nervous about that than I am doing the podcast. I'm not sure why. Yeah, we'll see how next Thursday.
Don't worry, we all
goes.
talk a lot.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'll be with you, Pete. I'll be there. I think I'm doing a question mastering on it, so I'll be there with you.
I need to get my head in that space.
We'll be good.
Yeah. So again, to your perspective, Dave, lots going on right now. Anything that you particularly go, that really floats my boat or resonates?
So yeah, we had a nice one this week. We've been collaborating with some of the other networks around. So it was Purple Tuesday this week, which is sort of highlighting how we can help our customers who are like neurodivergent or disabled, how we can provide them more access as they come in. So we did a great collaboration with a few people who were organising that from their network inside. In particular, we were highlighting the double disadvantage from society, people from lower working class backgrounds and who are also disabled face. It kind of compounds as they get more and more in. So yeah, we had a nice interactive wall, just like the WOW wall at the front, and there was free cake, which everyone always loves. So.
Yeah, it's one of my downfalls for sure.
So that's always a bonus. So yeah, I was quite excited about that. And then the other one we've got that's quite big, we have kind of an outside speaker coming in the end of the month. Paula Kemp's coming in from the Social Mobility Commission to give a talk to the company about kind of the importance and what we can do or try to help out. So we're looking forward to that one when it comes in.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, the other thing I've been watching is that how we're really trying to amplify for people in Auto Trader. So whatever route they've come in is how maybe they're feeling like how do they progress further, the whole coaching and mentoring piece, and that actually, even when you're inside the building, you come through that door, you may feel like you're not quite sure which way to go, and there is routes to help you all the way, whether you want to be like Claire on the OLT or whatever. There is lots of opportunities, and like you reference, like moving sideways. Sometimes a sideways move is as good as a forward move because it opens up the different opportunities. So that's one that I'm excited about because it then links into hopefully the DTA applications for next year, and people like going, actually, there's something I can bring to this. Where I think just looking at the previous years when I speak to people, it's a bit like, is that really for me? So it'd be great to bring that to life. But again, I'm thinking now we're finishing out 2023, 2024 is on the horizon. Hopefully the network will then really be established after this month and the things we're doing. So again, what John will maybe look forward into next year is the particular things when we come back round to November next year that we're reflecting on, a bit of a future perspective of things you'd go, I'd like the network to be in this place or this thing to have come to fruition. Dave, I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to be selfish and bang the data drum again.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be a really important piece for us, like just collecting that level of data from all the different areas. Obviously, we've got the new Hemel office as well. It'd been great to get all the data in from those guys too.
Interesting.
And really benchmark ourselves as a company. I think in particular, one interesting piece would really be kind of the spread of social mobility around the company itself, looking at sort of different departments and different roles, and seeing, if we have any particular areas where things are concentrating or need a bit more help as it goes in. The other one as well, I'd really like to kind of work on for the next year as well is, as Brad's already mentioned, the WOW moments and trying to provide those for other people too as they come in.
Yeah.
So one of the big things we're trying to advocate is the STEM ambassador scheme. So kind of going out to local schools and providing a face for kids to see and have a contact within businesses in their local area to move into professions like this. I think that'd be great if we can up the engagement of that within the company and get people out to like local areas around us.
Yeah. Awesome. What about yourself, Brad? It's now November 2024 with Time Machine Forward.
Perfect. Yeah. I think a lot more, or working a lot more closely with the likes of educational outreach, career kickstart networks. I think one that sits close to my heart, and not just creating awareness around what we're doing in the space, but actually creating the real opportunities for those early career entry sort of positions, really. So if we can do a lot more of that,
Brilliant.
That'd be great.
And Claire, again, probably a Claire and an OLT perspective, is there anything where you think we're on the right track here?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
I think there's this whole sense that certainly, from my perspective, of like imposter syndrome, like, what do I deserve a mentor? Why do I need to be coached? Have I not reached my level? So I think I'd really like to see a lot more take up of coaching, mentoring, and people becoming mentors as well. I think, people have a lot to offer, and especially if you've been through a journey yourself and you can help someone who's coming in to an organisation. As you mentioned earlier, Brad, you kind of walk in, you kind of a bit taken aback and overwhelmed by the size and the quality of and everything. So, having some coaching and mentoring by people who've been through it themselves. So I think just a big more take up of coaching and mentoring would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still in all those things. I'm thinking when we get the DT applications or something, like, is there a lot around more on the social mobility side? Like, that is something like that. It really has started sinking that this thing could be for me, and it might not be for now. It might be for next year. So very, very similar themes. And I think the other bit, like, again, from probably a network sponsor perspective, is that, like yourselves, Dave and Brad, like, the facilitators have really got it, like, really driving it forward, because it feels like we're now getting a little bit of traction, but it has taken a bit of time. Is that it is a network that's really passionate, and I think we've got quite a few people in the overall network, but we can see that more and more people are wanting to do stuff by it. So whether that be educational outreach or STEM ambassador or coaching and mentoring, I think if we can get a baseline across the organisation of people that are really interested in it, and like you said, we've got stories out there, like Claire's story or Ali's story, or Dad's, where people go, actually, you know what I mean? This isn't just about apprenticeships either. It's not just people coming through the door. There's people already in the organisation that have come from different backgrounds, and you may be like a senior developer, or you may be a professional designer. Is actually, there's lots of role models in there. It's just you probably haven't seen it yet. So, no, it's exciting times. So, unfortunately, we're coming up to our time out, and I know Claire is got other things on. Yes, well, I think we can move our things a little bit around. But big thanks to Brad, Claire and Dave for not only giving your views on the network and social mobility, but also your personal stories. They're always the things that bring it to life. Check out the Social Mobility Commission's website. There's lots of great info, content, recordings and kits that if you want to know more, you can get them for there. And if you're listening outside AT and your organisation, I've got a word out of my mouth, isn't part of it, apply, because the feedback you get is absolutely brilliant and it'll really help you forward. You can always hit up these three guests on LinkedIn if you want to know more. I'm sure they'll be posting the podcast. So thanks for you tuning in. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. And follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And that's bye for now.